Good day. This video is going to be about the allusions in the show Infância de Romeu e Julieta. This here is the description of the people who made this show. It says that the genre it's a children's telenovela, romance, fantasy, created by Aris Abravanel. It's based on Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare. The show is written by Denis Barbosa, Danilo Castro, Fernando Pripas, Grace Iwashita, Gustavo Braga, Marcela Arantes, Fanny Higuera, and it was directed by Rica Mantoanelli. At first, when I watched this show, I was gonna leave it alone, but then I saw that the same people who directed Patrulha Salvador and Carousel, they also directed this show, and then I saw I saw allusions to the kingdom of Israel and Judah, and then I decided to make this video. Now here's just the biography of this show. It says, A Infância de Romeu e Julieta is a Brazilian telenovela created by Aris Abravanel, produced and broadcast by SBT, and in partnership with Amazon Prime Video from May 8th, 2023 and August 19th, 2024. It is based on the tragedy Romeo and Juliet, written by William Shakespeare. And then in the plot, it says the plot takes place in a neighborhood called Castañeras, where two families with different proposals for the neighborhood live in discord, divided between the Tohi, Monteiro, and Villa Campos sides. However, Romeu and Julieta meet, and from then on, the rivals have a new opportunity to bring peace and unity between them. And then continuing on, it also says, well known in the neighborhood, Julieta Campos is an adventurous and cool girl who skateboards around the area. She is the granddaughter of the respected Elio Campos, a renowned coach who runs the Region Sports Center, SEC. She also lives with her grandmother and confidant, Clara Campos. Meanwhile, Romeu Monteiro has been encouraged by his parents, Vera Monteiro and Bernardo Monteiro, since he was little to play tennis, and has the best teacher to give him lessons in the condominium. But he does not have the same passion for solitary sports and ends up preferring collective ones, where he can play and have fun with his friends. Romeu also lives with Glaucia Monteiro, his aunt and Bernardo's sister, a woman of dubious origin who uses her tricks to achieve some prestige. 2 years ago, due to a mistake, Julieta's mother was unjustly arrested, thanks to the Monteiros, who believe that she kidnapped Romeu when he was still a baby, in addition to being accused of stealing a jewel from Vera, who was with Glaucia. When they discover the problem from the past, Romeu and Julieta do not know how they will manage to stay together in the face of the rivalry between the families. News of the romance also reaches the families who do not like the story at all, and try to separate them immediately, causing various situations. Romeu and Julieta want to put an end to this hostility and try to find a solution. However, when they discover more situations involving the rivalry between the families, they realize that this may be a difficult mission, but not impossible. I just wanted to provide some background on this show, Infância de Romeu e Julieta, but most of this information here is not relevant to what I'm about to talk about. Okay, it says here this is what I wanted to get to. It says that in the next chapters of Romeu Romeo and Juliet's childhood. Romeo, whose real name is Miguel Angelo, will discover that he is Teo or Miguel Schmidt's brother during a fight, and the story will even end up in a neighborhood gossip profile, with everyone knowing Bernardo, whose real name is Fabio Ventura, decides to assume paternity of the new son, even against Vera, whose real name is Bianca Hinalgi, wishes. When he calls Teo to talk, the businessman is not as well received as he imagines. Are you going to want to play the good father now? The boy will say, upset with so many changes. Romeo's father will not give up on the relationship. So this Romeo is the son of Bernardo and Vera. But then he finds out that he is Teo's half brother because of Juliet. Juliet is the one who lets the information out that Teo and Romeo are related. But I wanted to say that this represents the kingdom of Israel and Judah, and I'm going to show that very soon. Okay, this year is it's an interview that Bernardo or Fabio Ventura had, and then he's talking about his character of Bernardo. It says here, sudden change for Bernardo. He says that the businessman will discover the truth in this Thursday's chapter after Amanda, whose real name is Tamaris Mandu, finally realizes that telling the truth will be the only way to save Teo, the victim of a hit and run. The boy will need a blood transfusion, and the possibility of his father being compatible could save him from death. Romeu, the couple's son, will also have his issues with having a brother, especially someone so close to him. In fact, the artist is having fun acting alongside the two child actors. This is what Bernardo said. This is a quote from him. He says, each one approaches their characters in their own way. Each one has a different behavior on the set. It's an opportunity to experience a strong feeling of fatherhood that lives inside me, he reveals. Now this on the left is Romeo or Romeo with his mother, Vera. And then on the right is Teo with his mother, Amanda. These people, the reason why they cast Vera as a so-called white person or as an Edomite is to throw people off, because they don't want you to acknowledge that they don't want you to know that this Romeo and Teo represent Israel and Judah. But this Romeo represents Israel, Vera represents Leah, and then Amanda represents Rachel, and then Teo represents Israel. They cast the Edomite as Romeo's mother because they did not want you to be too obvious. It would have been too obvious that they had a so-called colored woman played Vera, because it would have been a man of color and then two women of color, and then the thing would not have been, it would have been too obvious. So that's why they've cast Vera as a so-called white woman or as a so-called white person, because they never wanted you to they never wanted people to make that deduction or to come to that conclusion. And then it says, underneath here it says, Tamaris Mandu plays the mother of Teo, played by Miguel Schmidj in the childhood of Romeo and Juliet. Once again, this Romeo represents Israel, Vera represents Leah, and Amanda represents Rachel, and then Teo represents Israel. I'm going to show that very soon. Romeo represents Judah. And then this here is a picture of Romeo and his brother Teo, and then the father in the middle. Once again, These people, they it's the same author, Arisa Bravanel. He the, it's the same person who made Patrulha Salvadora and Carousel. When I did the video of Carousel, I showed how they alluded to Michael Jackson, they alluded to Jacob, and they also alluded to, they alluded to Joseph, and they also alluded to Moses. And it's the same person who made those shows. He cast Cirillo into those roles of the people of the book because they already know who Cirillo is. Similarly, in this show, they cast these people here, Romeo and Teo as brothers, but then they gave them different mothers to try to throw people off. But they were telling you in the show that they're related. And then they have the man of color in the middle who is playing their father. He represents Jacob in the show. It says here in the description, it says Miguel Angelo, Fabio Ventura, and Miguel Schmidj. They play father and sons in the SBT soap opera. How do I know that these people represent Israel and Judah? Even their first names are the same. They're telling you that they're linked. They have the same first name, and then they cast them in the role of them being brothers, just proving that they represent Israel and Judah. Okay, now this here is a picture of Amanda and Bernardo. This here proves what I was talking about with Amanda being Rachel. When they interviewed Amanda and Bernardo, when they interviewed them so they could talk about their characters, they never interviewed Bernardo with Vera because those people they were not really supposed to be together. That was just, as I said, that was just to throw people off. They interviewed Amanda with Bernardo because Amanda represents Rachel, and then Bernardo represents Jacob. That's why they did that. Okay, this here is just proof to. This is some context to what I was talking about. This here is the biblical book of Genesis, chapter 29, verses 16 to 18. It says here that, and Laban had two daughters. The name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. And then verse 17 says, Leah was tender-eyed, but Rachel was beautiful and well-favored. And Jacob loved Rachel and said, I will serve thee 7 years for Rachel, thy younger daughter. So this here is just a story of Jacob and his two wives. Jacob went to his uncle Laban, and then he found his favorite wife he found Rachel to be his favorite, and then he wanted to get Rachel. He wanted to work for Rachel, or work to get Rachel. Sorry. And similarly, in that show, Infância, Romeu and Julieta, as I showed with the previous picture, the real person who Bernardo really wanted to be with was Amanda, not Vera. That's why when Vera found out that Bernardo had another son, she started to distance himself. She started to distance herself from him, and then that just proves what I was talking about. Rachel was the one who was Amanda, and then Vera represented Leah. Similarly, when Jacob went and then he saw Leah and Rachel, he liked Rachel more than Leah, and then he wanted to marry Rachel, not Leah, because he found Rachel to be his favorite, just like how Bernardo found Amanda to be his favorite and not Vera. Okay, this is just further proof. This is the same book, Genesis, but this is chapter 30, verses 22 to 24. It says, and the Most High remembered Rachel, and the Most High hearkened to her, and opened her womb. And she conceived and bare a son, and said, The Most High hath taken away my reproach. And she called his name Joseph, and said, The Lord shall add to me another son. And this here just proves what I was talking about. Amanda represents Rachel, and Teo represents Joseph. Okay, now this here is these verses here just prove that they prove that the people of the book are people of color. Someone may ask that, how do you know that Romeo and Juliet are represent? I mean, Romeo and Teo represent Israel and Judah. It's because once again they have the same first name. They cast them into those roles because they already know who they are, and they already know who they are supposed to represent. This here is the Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verses 5 to 6. It says here, I am black but comely, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar, as the curtains of Solomon. Look not upon me because I am black, because the sun hath looked upon me. My mother's children were angry with me. They made me the keeper of the vineyards, but mine own vineyard have I not kept. Now this here is the Hebrew word for the word black in Song of Solomon. It says here that the word is the Hebrew number 77838. The word is shahar or shakar. It says the KJV translates Strong's H7838 in the following manner: black, and then it says outline of biblical usage is black, and then the Hebrew word is shakar. It says from H7835, properly dusky, but also absolute jetty black. And then it says in the Gesenius's Hebrew Chaldee lexicon, it says it's an adjective, and then the word is black, used of hair in Leviticus chapter 13, verse 31 and verse 37, and then a horse in Zechariah chapter 6 and verse 2 and verse 6, and then blackish hair of the face, and then blackish color of the face in Song of Solomon chapter 1 verse 5. Once again, this shows that the people of the book are people of color. It says that when the word black there is used, it's talking about the face. Solomon is saying that he's black in the face, meaning he's a so-called person of color, or so-called black person. These verses here just show that the people of the book will be scattered. The top verse is Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 36. It says, The Lord shall bring thee and thy king which thou shalt set over thee unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, and there shalt thou serve other gods, wood and stone. And then the bottom verse is the same book, Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 64. And it reads, The Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from the one end of the earth even unto the other. And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. You see, the people of the book, they disobeyed the commandments of the Lord, and then they were scattered. And then from there they started worshiping other gods, false entities. Now these verses here are just talking about the split of the kingdoms, the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. The verses on the left are from 1 Kings chapter 11 verses 23 to 31, and they read, And the Most High stirred up another adversary, Rezon the son of Eliada, which fled from his lord Hadadezer, king of Zobah, and he gathered men unto him, and became captain over a band when David slew them of Zobah. And they went to Damascus, and dwelt therein, and reigned in Damascus. And he was an adversary to Israel all the days of Solomon, beside the mischief that Hadad did. And he abhorred Israel, and reigned over Syria. And Jeroboam the son of Nebat, an Ephrathite of Zereda, Solomon's servant, whose mother's name was Zeruiah, a widow woman, even he lifted up his hand against the king. And this was the cause that he lifted up his hand against the king. Solomon built Millo, and repaired the breaches of the city of David his father. And the man Jeroboam was a mighty man of valor, and Solomon, seeing the young man that he was industrious, he made him ruler over all the charge of the house of Joseph. And it came to pass at that time, when Jeroboam went out of Jerusalem, that the prophet Ahijah the Shilonite found him in the way, and he had clad himself with a new garment, and they two were alone in the field. And Ahijah caught the new garment that was on him, and rent it in 12 pieces. And he said to Jeroboam, Take thee 10 pieces, for thus saith the Lord, the power of Israel, Behold, I will rend the kingdom out of the hand of Solomon, and will give 10 tribes to thee. See, now this here is just talking about the split of the kingdom. The kingdom of Israel was split after Solomon. It was split into the kingdom of Israel and the kingdom of Judah. It was the nation of Israel were no longer going to be united. It was now going to be two separate kingdoms. And then the verse on the verses on the right are from 2nd Ezra chapter 13 and verses 40 to 45. And they read, Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, whom Salmanasar the king of Assyria led away captive. And he carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land. But they took counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen, and go forth into a farther country, where never mankind dwelt, that they may there keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land. And they entered into Euphrates by the narrow places of the river. For the Most High then showed signs for them, and held still the flood till they were passed over. For through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half. And the same region is called Arsareth. So now here, these verses here just show that when the kingdom was split between the kingdom of Israel and the kingdom of Judah, the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom, the 10 tribes, after they were taken captive by the Syrians, they went into a country where never mankind dwelt. And then the region of the place, they called it Arsareth, which means unknown land. Now, the reading on the left is a description of Arsareth, and then it says it's by Maurice Jastrow Jr. and someone called Kaufman Kohler. It says here that the name of the land beyond the great river, far away from the habitation of man, in which the 10 tribes of Israel will dwell, observing the laws of Moses, until the time of the restoration, according to 4th Ezra chapter 13 verse 45, which is just 2nd Ezra chapter 13 verse 45. It says Columbus, or Christopher Columbus, identified America with this land. And then it says C. Kayser-Ling's Christopher Columbus, translated by Dr. C. Gross, page 15. You see, Arsareth was identified by Columbus was identified to be America by Columbus. Once this proves that the Aboriginal people of America, they they are the descendants of the 10 tribes. Because when he says that Columbus identified America with this land, he's talking about Arsareth. So Arsareth, at least according to Columbus, was a was America, or America is Arsareth according to Christopher Columbus. And who are the Aboriginal people of America? They call them the so-called Native Americans. Those people, that means, at least according to this reading here, it means that the Aboriginal Americans have to be the descendants of the 10 tribes of Israel. And then on the right, it says it's a stone. It's called the Los Lunas Decalogue stone. This stone here is found in Mexico, and then the stone is written in Hebrew. Once again, proving that the people who came from or the Aboriginal people of America, the people who came from uh, the people who settled in America, have to be the descendants of the 12 tribes, because this stone here is written in Hebrew. Why would if the people who settled in America, if the Aboriginal Americans were not from Hebrew, why would they have a stone that was written in Hebrew? It doesn't make sense. The only real explanation is those people have to be Israelites, or they have to be the people of the book. That means that they have to be the descendants of the 10 tribes. That's the only reason why that's the only reason why there's a stone that's written in Hebrew in Mexico. That means the people there originally must have spoken Hebrew. Okay, now this the image on the right is from this book called The Negro Question, Part 6, The 13 Black Colonies. It's written by a man named Lee Cummings. Okay, let me just zoom in here. He says that this is in reference to the Aboriginal people of America when the explorers came in the 16th century. And this is how the explorers described the Aboriginal people of America. They said the complexion of the Carolina Indians is black, not much different from that of the Ethiopians. It says their hair is black and thick and not very long, tied back behind the head like a small tail. As for the physique of these men, they are well proportioned, of medium height, a little taller than we are. They have broad chests, strong arms, and the legs and other parts of the body are well, are well composed. They are broad in the face and have big black eyes. They have a sharp can they have a sharp cunning and are agile and swift runners. This is from the Italian explorer Giovanni de Verrazzano, 1524. So again, this proves once again that the Aboriginal people of America were people of color. Okay, this here is another image, another reading, showing the description of the Aboriginal Americans. It says that this here is a Indian of the Powhatan and Pocahontas period. It reads cigar store figure circa 1870. So this is from the 19th century. It says from a tobacconist's shop, it does not depict the typical Plains Indians, but rather an Indian of the Powhatan and Pocahontas period. And then here it says in the early 1600s, John Smith, explorer of the first permanent English colony, described the indigenous people that he was at war with on the eastern shore of North America, in Jamestown, Virginia, the Powhatan Indians, the Algonquin chief, more like a devil than a man, with some 200 more as black as himself. So again, this just shows that the Aboriginal people of America were people of color. Okay, this here is just another image showing the Aboriginal people of America. As you can clearly see, these are people of color. Okay, now I had to go back to this image because everything that I've just read ties back to this, because this in this show, this Romeo represents Israel, once it represents Judah, and then Teo represents Israel. I just read how the kingdom of Israel was split, and then when it was split, the prophet Ahijah gave 10 tribes to Jeroboam, and then he gave the other 2 tribes that remained to Solomon. How do I know that these how do I know that Romeo and Juliet represent Judah and Israel? Is because they have the same first name. They are linked in some way. They have to be linked. If they never had the same first name, then maybe I would have left it alone. But then when I saw that they have the same first name and then they made them brothers too, I said, yes, these people, they have to be whoever made this show. That Aris Abravanel, she clearly knows who the people of the book are. Because once again, when I did that video of the allusions in Patrula Salvadora and Carousel, I showed how the character of Cirillo was alluded to. They alluded to him being Michael Jackson. They also alluded to Joseph, and they alluded to Moses. And that show was created by Arisa Bravanel, who is the same person who created this show. So that Arisa Bravanel clearly knows who the people of the book are. And then once again, this shows is Judah on the left, or Romeo on the left. In the middle, they have Jacob or Bernardo. And then on the right, they have Teo, who represents the kingdom of Israel, or the northern kingdom. And then the 3 of them here represents them coming together. Because in the show, Romeo found out that he had a brother, and then they were supposed to, and then even in the show, they have similar characteristics. Both of them liked playing sports. Both of them are very competitive. So they were showing you in that show that there has to be there's some type of connection between the 2 of them. Once again, Romeo represents Judah. The person in the middle, Bernardo, represents Jacob, and then Teo represents Israel. They represent Israel and Judah. Okay, this here is the last image that I'm going to use for this video. When I went to look at the interview that Romeo and Juliet had, or Miguel Angelo and Miguel Schmidj had, I saw that Miguel Angelo was wearing white, and then Miguel Schmidj was wearing black. Once again, they're telling you they were like this on purpose, because they're telling you that they have a link. There's some type of connection between both of them. Once again, this Miguel Angel is wearing white, and then Miguel Schmidj is wearing black. And then notice also they have the same first name, because there's meant to be some type of connection between them. Miguel Angelo, once again, represents Israel. It represents Judah. And then Miguel Schmidj represents Israel. They represent the kingdom of Israel and the kingdom of Judah. Good day.